In the spring of 1221, a woman rode her horse across the ruins of a city, and the ground beneath the hooves was made of people. Nishapur, in what is now Iran, had been one of the richest cities in the world. Silk markets, libraries, turquoise mined from the hills. 10 days earlier, it held tens of thousands of living souls. Now every one of them was dead, beheaded, their skulls stacked into pyramids so that the woman could ride across the flattened rubble without her horse stumbling. She had asked for exactly this, and the man who granted it was her father, the most feared conqueror who ever lived. Today, we're looking at how an abandoned orphan who nearly starved to death on the steppe became Genghis Khan, and whether the man who killed millions was born a monster or made into one. Like and subscribe quickly before we dive in. Let's go back to Mongolia, around the year 1162. The steppe was not a country. It was a scatter of warring tribes, Tatars and Merkits and Naimans and Karaites, and a dozen smaller clans, each one raiding, feuding, and surviving off the others. Alliances lasted exactly as long as they were useful. A boy born into that world had roughly even odds of dying young, and no reason to expect mercy from anyone outside his own tent. This particular boy was named Temüjin, and his father, Yesugei, was a minor chieftain, powerful enough to have enemies, not powerful enough to keep his family safe. When Temüjin was around 9 years old, Yesugei took him on a long ride to arrange his marriage to a girl named Börte from his mother's tribe. He left the boy with her family to begin the betrothal and turned for home alone. On the way, he came across a group of Tatars holding a feast, and steppe custom said a traveler could sit and eat. So he did. It was a fatal mistake. Years earlier, he had killed a Tatar warrior, and someone at that feast recognized his face. They slipped poison into his food. He rode home in agony and died 3 days later. Remember that poisoning. 40 years later, it would still be shaping how this man dealt with the world. With Yesugei dead, his clan did the practical thing. They abandoned the widow and her children on the open steppe and rode away, taking the herds with them. Temüjin's mother, Hoelun, was left with a handful of young children, almost no animals, and a Mongolian winter closing in, the kind of cold that kills a grown man caught in the open. What followed was survival at its rawest. They ate marmots and field mice. They dug roots out of half-frozen ground and pulled fish from the rivers. And it was in that desperate camp, fighting over scraps, that the future emperor committed his first killing. In a quarrel over a fish and a lark taken on a hunt, Temüjin and his younger brother ambushed and killed their own older half-brother, Beta, over who controlled the food. He was a starving boy, murdering another boy to feed his family. It got worse before it got better. A rival clan, worried that Yesugei's son might one day grow strong enough for revenge, hunted the family down and captured Temüjin. They locked a wooden kangwe around his neck, a heavy yoke that pinned his arms, and paraded him from camp to camp as a prisoner. One night, during a feast, he slipped his guard, cracked the yoke against the man's head, and ran. He hid in a river, lying on his back with only his nostrils above the waterline, while his captors searched the banks in the dark. A man from a lowly family spotted him, said nothing, and later hid him under a pile of wool in a cart until the search moved on. Temüjin never forgot the debt. Before the empire, before the millions dead, he was a hunted, half-starved boy who had been thrown away by his own people, betrayed by the very idea that blood and birth would protect you. Everything he built afterward can be read as one long answer to that childhood. He would never be powerless again, and he would never again trust a man simply because of the family he came from. His way up was alliance, and his first great alliance came wrapped in a crisis. Not long after he finally married Berta, raiders from the Merkit tribe swept into his camp and carried her off, an act of revenge since Temüjin's own father had once stolen his wife from the Merkits in the same way. Temüjin didn't have the strength to get her back alone. So he went to two men. One was Togrul, a powerful Karaite chieftain who had once been his father's ally. The other was Jamuka. Jamuka matters more than almost anyone in this story, and most people have never heard his name. He was Temüjin's Anda, his sworn blood brother. As boys, they had performed the ritual, exchanging gifts and swallowing a bit of each other's blood, a bond that Mongols considered stronger than family, because family was an accident of birth and brotherhood was chosen. Jamuka came from a genuinely noble line. Temüjin, at that point, was nobody. And when Berta was taken, Jamuka brought an army to help his friend get her back. They shattered the Merkits together. Berta was recovered. She came home pregnant, and the paternity of that first son, Joshi, whether he was Temüjin's or a Merkit's, would poison the family for the rest of their lives. For a while, the two blood brothers ruled side by side. Then it curdled. The problem was philosophy as much as pride. Jamuka believed in the old Mongolia, where aristocratic bloodlines ruled and commoners obeyed. Temüjin was building something that horrified the nobility. He promoted men by skill and loyalty rather than birth, and he shared the spoils of victory with the ordinary soldiers who won them instead of hoarding the loot among the aristocrats. A shepherd's son who fought well could rise to command. To Jamuka's class, this was an insult to the natural order. To the commoners of the steppe, it was the most attractive offer anyone had ever made them, and they began drifting to Temüjin's camp in a steady stream. The two men went to war, on and off, for the better part of 2 decades. Jamuka even beat him badly once, at the Battle of Dalan Baljut, and reportedly boiled captured enemy leaders alive in cauldrons afterward, an atrocity that disgusted many of his own followers and pushed still more of them toward Temüjin. Slowly, the balance tipped. One by one, Temüjin absorbed or crushed every major tribe on the steppe, including the Tatars, the people who had poisoned his father. When he defeated them, around 1202, his revenge revealed exactly what that childhood had made him. He ordered the execution of every Tatar male taller than the linchpin of a cartwheel, roughly every boy taller than 3 feet. The men who did the poisoning were decades dead. He wiped out a generation for the crime anyway, and folded the surviving women and children into his own people. Jamuka's end came last. Defeated and reduced to a handful of followers, he was betrayed by his own men, who dragged him to Temüjin expecting a reward. Instead, Temüjin had the betrayers executed in front of him because a man who would sell out his own lord could never be trusted. Then he offered Jamuka his life and his brotherhood back. Jamuka refused. There could be only one sun in the sky, he said, and only one lord over the Mongols. He asked only for a noble death, the kind that spilled no blood, because Mongols believed a nobleman's blood must not be poured onto the earth. Temüjin granted it. Jamuka's back was broken so that no blood was shed, and he was buried, by some accounts, in the golden belt the two of them had exchanged as boys when they swore to be brothers. By 1206, there was no one left to fight. A great council of chiefs proclaimed Temüjin the ruler of all the tribes and gave him the title the world would remember: Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. The leading shaman announced that he ruled by the will of the eternal blue sky, the supreme god of the Mongols. To defy him now was to defy heaven itself. What he built next was not just an army, but a machine. He tore apart the old tribal structure and reorganized his entire people into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, ranked by merit and loyalty rather than clan, so that a man's first allegiance was to the Khan, and not to his tribe. He backed a written law code, the Yasa. He created a fast horse relay messenger system that could carry orders and news across thousands of miles. He guaranteed religious tolerance, protecting Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, and shamanists under the same law, and he exempted their holy men from taxes. He made the Silk Road safe so that a merchant could travel its length without being robbed. If the story ended in 1206, Genghis Khan would be remembered as one of history's great nation builders, a lawgiver who dragged a shattered people into a single disciplined state. The story does not end in 1206. In 1219, Genghis wasn't looking west for war. He was looking for trade. He sent a caravan of around 450 merchants and agents into the Khwarezmian Empire, the enormous Muslim power that covered modern Iran and Central Asia, carrying gold, silver, silks, and a message proposing peaceful commerce between equals. At the border city of Otrar, the governor, a man named Inalchuk, accused the merchants of being spies, seized every last bale of their goods, and had all of them put to death. One camel driver, who happened to be bathing away from the group, escaped to carry the news home. Even then, Genghis didn't invade. He sent 3 envoys to the Shah of Khwarezmia, demanding that the governor be handed over for punishment. It was a chance to make it right. Instead, the Shah had the lead ambassador beheaded and sent the other 2 back to Genghis with their beards burned or shaved off, a deliberate, calculated humiliation. To Genghis Khan, that was a declaration of total war. He gathered an army, most likely somewhere between 100,000 and 150,000 men, and poured it into Khwarezmia. His strategy was brutal and simple. Cities that surrendered and cooperated were largely spared. Cities that resisted were made into examples so horrifying that the next city would think twice. And the Mongols proved willing to do the impossible to make those examples. To reach the great city of Bukhara, they crossed the Kizilkum, a desert everyone believed no army could pass, and appeared at the walls from the one direction the defenders had left unguarded. Bukhara fell in early 1220. According to the Persian historian Juvayni, writing a generation later, Genghis rode to the Great Mosque, climbed into the pulpit where imams preached, and addressed the terrified survivors through an interpreter. He told them, "You have committed great sins, and I am the proof. Because if you had not sinned, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." Whether he said those exact words, filtered as they were through translators and a historian who was a child at the time, we can't be certain. But the line captured how the Mongols wanted to be understood. They were not merely an army, they were a judgment. City after city met the same fate. Samarkand, Merv, where a chronicler claimed it took 13 days just to count the dead. Urgench, when the captured governor Inalchuk, the man whose greed at Otrar had started the whole war, was finally brought before the Mongols. They are said to have executed him by pouring molten silver into his eyes and ears, a punishment shaped to fit his crime. And then Nishapur, where we began. During the fighting, an arrow from the city walls killed a Mongol commander named Tokuchar, who happened to be married to Genghis Khan's daughter. When his widow learned that her husband was dead, she asked for the city to be wiped out completely. Not a dog or a cat left alive. Genghis granted her wish. His youngest son, Tolui, carried it out. The entire population was killed, the heads severed and piled into pyramids so that no wounded survivor could crawl out of the count. And the widow rode across the ruins exactly as she had demanded. The numbers medieval chroniclers gave for these massacres, well over 1 million dead at Nishapur alone, are almost certainly exaggerated. The city simply couldn't have held that many people. Modern historians think the real figures run into the tens or hundreds of thousands, still a scale of slaughter that few events in history can match. Across all of Genghis Khan's conquests, the death toll is commonly cited at around 40 million people, perhaps a tenth of everyone alive on Earth at the time. That figure is disputed too, built on incomplete medieval censuses. What isn't disputed is the scale. Entire civilizations extinguished, cities that would not recover their populations for centuries, irrigation systems so thoroughly destroyed that farmland turned back into desert. So how do you weigh a man like this? To the Mongols, he was a founding father, the orphan who united a broken people, gave them law, and made them masters of the world. To the cities of Persia and Central Asia, he was the end of the world, a name that still means terror 800 years later. He promoted talent over birth in an age that worshipped bloodlines. He protected freedom of religion centuries before most of the world dreamed of it. He also killed on a scale that would not be matched until the 20th century. Every one of those things is true at the same time, and any version of him that keeps only the flattering half, or only the monstrous half, is a lie. In 1227, campaigning against the Western Xia, the kingdom that had refused to send him troops years earlier, Genghis fell from his horse while hunting and never fully recovered. He grew feverish over the following months and died that August, somewhere around 65 years old. On his deathbed, incensed by insults from the Xia commander, he ordered the kingdom wiped out. His heirs obeyed. The Western Xia civilization was, in the words of one historian, essentially erased from the earth. But his story wasn't over. His death was kept a strict secret so it wouldn't shatter the campaign, and the enemy capital fell weeks later without ever knowing the great Khan was already gone. The funeral procession carried his body home toward Mongolia, and legend says the escort killed everyone who saw it pass to keep the route and the resting place hidden. He was buried without a marker, without a mound, somewhere near the sacred mountain where, as a hunted young man, he had once hidden from his enemies and prayed. Horses were said to have trampled the ground flat, so no trace remained. To this day, no one has found the grave. One more thing. In 2003, geneticists studying the Y chromosome found a single male lineage carried by roughly 16 million men across the old territory of the Mongol Empire, tracing back to one man in Mongolia about 1,000 years ago. The obvious suspect was Genghis Khan and his sons, who took countless women as wives and concubines across a continent. Later research has cast real doubt on the direct link, and the claim is far shakier than it once seemed. But the idea stuck because it pointed at something true. This one abandoned boy didn't just conquer the world. He may have rewritten the bloodline of half of Asia. The orphan who was thrown away on the steppe spent his entire life making certain no one could ever discard him again. He built the largest land empire the world has ever seen, gave it laws and roads and tolerance, and buried a continent to do it. Whether that makes him a builder or a butcher depends almost entirely on where your ancestors happened to be standing when his riders appeared on the horizon. He was born with nothing and left the earth with no grave at all. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like if you learned something new. Remember to subscribe for more incredible stories and historical facts.